Well, now let's bring in Joseph Williams, a senior news editor at US News and World Report, to get his take on how the fight against the pandemic is going. Welcome again, Joseph.
Hi, nice to be with you.
So as we know, the U.S. is entering a busy holiday travel season. What's the mood among Americans regarding COVID and travel this year?
Well, the mood, in a couple of words, would be muddled, restless, and just kind of a shrug of the shoulders in that we now are going to have to live with this virus. To be clear, the virus is still proliferating. It's still going on a lot in the United States. And we still are not through we're through the worst of it, but the pandemic still kind of grinds on. And I think that's one of the reasons why people have decided to just consider this a normal holiday, even though the virus is still claiming thousands of lives a day. It's not claiming the tens of thousands that it did a year ago. And I think that's the big difference. And we have vaccines where that at least offers a modicum of protection. But we still are very much in the midst of a global pandemic. And it is frustrating to public health officials that people are kind of treating this like business as usual, even though we still have a lot to be concerned about.
And definitely that pandemic fatigue setting in. People are like, look, if this is here to stay, I'm just going to travel anyway. So then how does where and how people are traveling compare to last Thanksgiving?
Well, last Thanksgiving, we basically had almost a travel shutdown. There were very few people, or at least substantially fewer people, traveling to grandma's house or to cousins or to friends' places for the big Thanksgiving celebration. This year, however, it's up substantially. TSA reports that year over year, it's up some 45 to 50% where it was last year, and that people on the roads, AAA is expecting more people to drive this year than last year at a substantially higher rate. So certainly people are traveling, and they're not blanching very much at all about getting on an airplane, mainly because the thought is that the vaccine is here and we've got some protection. However, health officials are advising everyone to stay with the masks, to wash your hands, to practice public health protocol to keep you safe and to try to keep transmissions to a minimum.
And of course, with the winter holidays starting, as parts of Europe are going back into lockdowns because of some of these COVID surges. So what's actually driving those new cases in Europe?
Well, in Europe, the new cases are being driven again by the Delta variant. It's still not gone. It still is going to have the last word on whether or not we're going to have a complete return to normal. And we also are seeing in Europe that this is also, just as it is in the United States, the pandemic of the unvaccinated. Here in the United States, we still have a full third or more of people who are unvaccinated. The same is true in parts of Western Europe, particularly Germany, where a lot of their vaccine hesitancy mirrors what's happening in the United States. People who are suspicious, people who feel there are conspiracies there, people who feel it infringes upon their personal liberties. So as long as those vaccine rates in certain areas stay above 35, 40, 45%, we are still going to have to deal with surges. We're still going to have to deal with tens of thousands of people dying worldwide per day.
And it's difficult because people really have picked their sides and are really digging their heels in. And then, of course, with these tougher restrictions come more protests. So are mandates and other methods to try and incentivize vaccinations and social distancing, are they working?
Well, in the federal government, they had a vaccine mandate for all federal employees and contractors, and they got vaccinating rates upwards of 90%. So if your job depends on it, if your job requires it, chances are you're going to take the jab to keep earning a living. However, not every state is going along with workplace mandates, and those states that aren't are seeing vaccine rates that are higher and higher, and threatening to put more pressure on hospitals and to continue the kind of stress that they've been under for the last 2.5 years.
And so then what is the latest on vaccination numbers and infection spikes that we're seeing globally?
Globally, vaccination rates and COVID hesitancy spikes kind of track. The higher the vaccination rate, the lower the transmission rate, the lower the death rate. Conversely, places that are hesitancy, I mean, you've seen it in Germany, you're seeing it in Austria, other places where people are refusing to do either the vaccine or the mask mandate, cases are spiking, and this just seems to be something that we cannot get our arms around in either locally at the United States or globally, because we have a lot of people who feel very strongly one way or the other about these measures.